In the early 2000s, something incredible happened. Suddenly, anybody with an internet connection had access to all of the information they needed to learn any language they wanted. Grammar rules, vocabulary lists, TV shows, music, all of it free and available 24/7. Linguists and language learners all over the world thought that this would usher in a new language learning renaissance, and that we'd all be speaking multiple languages because we finally had access to the information we needed. And yet, here we are in 2026, and most of us are still struggling to hold a basic conversation in Spanish. So, what went wrong? Well, it turns out access to more information was never the real problem. What we needed was a better way to absorb, learn, and hold on to that information. Because having access to the information on the internet is not the same thing as being able to use it under pressure in real time when you're actually having a conversation face to face with somebody in Spanish and you need to make quick split second decisions. And let's be honest, we already have all the information we need anyway. Every verb chart, every irregular verb, every grammar rule, every vocabulary word you could ever want, every Spanish TV show, every Spanish song, it's all out there for free for the taking. But none of that matters if you don't know how to get all that information into your brain so that it sticks. So in today's video, I'm going to share with you 3 daily habits that will help you do exactly that. These habits are designed to help you absorb information faster, hold on to it for the long term, and actually access it in real-world conversation when you need it. And these habits are backed by science, they're used by the world's most successful polyglots, and they actually follow the way your brain likes to learn new information. So it's a lot more fun and a lot more addicting than trying to force yourself to study a bunch of grammar sheets. Furthermore, I'm not just going to give you the habits, but I'm also going to share with you the principles behind them so you know why they work and why it's so important to do it a certain way. That way, you can create your own habits based on these principles that fit your routine and your specific style of learning. It's simple, it's addictive, and it's actually sustainable over the long term. If you're new to this channel, my name is Connor Sullivan. I'm a self-taught fluent Spanish speaker, and I've lived abroad in Spanish-speaking countries for multiple years using nothing but Spanish to communicate. And this channel is everything I wish I had when I was first starting out. So let's get into it. Principle number 1, create strong memories for each vocab word you want to learn. When most people try to memorize Spanish vocab, they try to do it as fast as possible to fit as many words in their memory in a short amount of time as they can. The problem is they end up forgetting just as much as they learn, and so they never end up getting anywhere. Instead, it's actually faster to slow down and make sure you learn each word properly so that it sticks in your brain for the long term. Here's how you can actually do that. Instead of focusing just on the translation you want to memorize, focus on the Spanish word itself and try to find direct connections between that word and its meaning. So for instance, if I'm trying to remember that puente is the Spanish word for bridge, I might look at puente and I would see a U, and I know that a U upside down is an N, which kind of looks like a bridge. Okay, now we've got one connection. I might also remember that Pont Neuf is the French word for famous bridge in Paris, which I visited once before. And since pont is kind of similar to the Spanish word puente, now I've got another connection between the way the word sounds and what it actually means. Lastly, I might notice a connection between the word puente and the English phrase pent up, which kind of makes me think of water behind a dam, and a dam is similar to a bridge. So now I've got 3 unique and memorable connections between the word puente and the meaning bridge. Not only does this help me skip over the translation in English to think directly in Spanish, but it also makes the word way more memorable. It's kind of like leaving tiny breadcrumb trails in your brain to follow every time you're trying to remember the word puente. Now there are 3 unique stories that might come to mind and help you find your way back to that word whenever you need it in a real life conversation. Lastly, this also follows neuroscience because your brain is constantly trying to prune unimportant neural connections. So if you're trying to remember that puente equals bridge, that's only one connection and it's very weak and your brain is probably going to prune it and you'll totally forget it. But if you have 3 connections that are each unique and memorable, well, now you're signaling to your brain to hold on to that neural connection because it's important. It's got multiple connections and therefore it's clearly useful. And this is actually how polyglots learn to think in their target language. They don't just connect a word to its translation, but rather they connect a word to its meaning, and they fill that with a bunch of memories and a bunch of associations that connect directly back to the new word in the target language. That way, their brain associates the new word with the meaning rather than the English word, and they begin thinking directly in Spanish. So that covers the principle, but what about the habit connected to this? Well, here's how I put this principle into action when I first learned it. I started off by learning one new Spanish word a day, and I would practice coming up with as many connections between that word and its meaning as I could. At first, it was really difficult, and I felt like I was squeezing my brain to try to get these connections out. But over time, it got easier and easier. And then I started doing more words per day until I was up to about 5 to 10 new words each day. Not only did it get easier to come up with the connections for each word, but I got better at coming up with more memorable connections, so they actually stuck in my brain for the long term. And now there are thousands of Spanish words that I instinctively understand, but I don't even remember having learned them. The meaning suddenly became instinctive because it had all of these connections to rely upon to become automatic. Now, I don't recommend you start off trying to do more than 5 new words per day. This is a habit that takes time to really develop. But eventually, once you have the skill, you can get up to about 10 new words per day pretty comfortably. And that's over 3,000 new Spanish words per year, well beyond the amount you need to be comfortably conversationally fluent. So now you've learned how to put new Spanish words into your long term memory, but that's not enough for conversational fluency. You also have to practice retrieving those words from your brain and using them. Most people don't realize that the process of finding a memory is actually completely different, neurologically speaking, from the process of creating a new memory. We've all had that experience of having a word on the tip of our tongue that we just can't remember, and yet we know the word. That happens because that information might be in our brain, but that doesn't necessarily mean we know where to go to find it. This is where the breadcrumb technique from the previous principle comes in handy. You've already left yourself multiple breadcrumb trails and associations that you can use to find your way back to that word, but now you have to actually practice using them. So here's how I like to put this principle into practice. There's a well-known flashcard software called Anki that's already been all over the language learning YouTube space. And that's for good reason. You really need to start using Anki if you aren't already. It allows you to make custom flashcards of anything you want, and then it reminds you of those flashcards at recurring intervals designed to put that information into your long-term memory. The intervals are set up so that it's far enough away that you begin to forget the word, but that it's still there for you when you go and try to retrieve it. So you're essentially practicing your ability to find the memories you've created, which is super important for language learning. But here's where I like to add my own little twist. See, when most people create new Anki cards, they follow the direct translation method, where they're simply trying to memorize puente equals bridge. But I prefer to actually use my Anki cards to strengthen the memory I associated with puente. So instead of putting in my Anki cards puente equals bridge, I would put the memory of Pont Neuf and how that connects to a bridge, or I would show the letter U and how that looks like an upside down bridge. This way, I'm directly strengthening the pathway that leads me back to the meaning puente. I'm also avoiding the major mistake of teaching my brain to think in English and then translate to Spanish, which is what happens when all you do is train direct translations. And for one more twist on this habit, I also like to take every 2 Anki cards that come up, remember the 2 words associated with those cards, and then create a new sentence that uses both of those words. So I might have an Anki card pop up for puente and another one for perro. And then I have to try and find some kind of situation or sentence that uses both of those words. El perro está cruzando el puente. This habit actually allows you to strengthen the original memories that you made when you first learned each Spanish word, and it also helps you practice use them in a new scenario to add more connections on top of it. If you follow this habit every day, your brain will become a densely networked series of associations and meanings already encoded in the Spanish language. And that's how you begin to really take off with the language. But there's one more principle that I had to add to this list, and it's possibly the most overlooked principle of Spanish learning. Because if all you do is memorize and even retrieve all of the Spanish words in the world, you still might not be able to have a conversation in Spanish if you don't know how to properly hear and pronounce the actual sounds of Spanish. Principle number 3, practice proper pronunciation. Pronunciation is far more important than most people realize. You could have an entire dictionary's worth of Spanish words locked into your memory forever, and yet if you cannot speak clearly and understand when you are spoken to, then you'll never become conversationally fluent in Spanish. Because the actual act of having a conversation is part memory, but also part muscle memory. You need to have the proper movements in your mouth and tongue in order to create the proper sounds. I've got a bunch of other videos that go way deeper into this topic if you're interested, but for now, it's important to understand that pronunciation is important. Besides, if you walk into every Spanish conversation sounding like an out of touch tourist, it's not going to help you make new Spanish friends or hold new conversations. People aren't really going to want to talk to you, even if your Spanish is technically perfect. So, how do I like to do this in habit? Well, I like to sing along to Spanish music. It might sound a little strange, but it's actually a perfect habit. There are several reasons for this. First, music is fun and addicting. Second, you get to choose which music you listen to, so you can match it to the genres that you enjoy and the actual complexity of words that you're currently dealing with. Three, Spanish lyrics are usually pretty simple, and the words are generally very emotional or image based. So it's actually a great place to learn new Spanish words with context. Fourth, the rhythm in the rhyme scheme also forces you to pay attention to the flow of the language, so you get more of that into your muscle memory as well. It's also relatively easy to look up the lyrics for any Spanish song. Just type in the title of that song into any search engine, followed by the word letra, and that will take you to the lyrics for that song. This helps you build Spanish muscle memory in a fun, addictive, and natural way. Most songs are only 3 or 4 minutes long, so it's really routine friendly. You can do it while you're washing the dishes, or when you're going for a run, or when you have a break at work. It doesn't have to turn into like some big chore. You're just singing along to music. When I first started doing this habit, I would stick to relatively normal, popular Spanish music that had pretty basic lyrics to it, the kind of stuff you hear on the radio. But as I got better, I would switch genres to faster and faster songs until I was actually memorizing and repeating and singing along to really fast rap lyrics in Spanish. Leave a comment below if you want to see a video of me rapping in Spanish. But because there's so much music out there, you can really focus in on the artists, the genre, and the level of complexity that is right for you, which makes it the perfect habit for integrating proper Spanish pronunciation into your daily study session. So there you have it. In today's video, we covered 3 habits that will help you become conversationally fluent in Spanish. We also learned the principles behind those habits so that you're not stuck using the habits I give you, but you can actually create your own according to your current level of Spanish and your daily routine. Those 3 principles were: number 1, you want to create strong memories associated with each new word. Number 2, you want to practice retrieving and using those memories. And number 3, you need to integrate some kind of pronunciation practice into your daily Spanish study sessions. If you can do those 3 things, hold on to new memories, retrieve those memories, and then speak well, you will be conversationally fluent in Spanish in no time. Because those 3 steps are literally all it takes to be conversationally fluent. If you got value out of this video, hit like and subscribe so other people can find it too. If you want to go deeper into the Spanish pronunciation stuff, I'm building a course in my school community. Just join my school community at the link below and you'll be notified whenever that course is ready. And if you want a series of 5 ChatGPT prompts that I developed that will help you actually come up with those memories to hold new words into your long-term memory, then check out this video right here. And I'll see you in the next one.